You know, that was really in the heyday of the early 70s. I remember driving the car. Gord was sitting in the passenger seat. Gord and I were driving from Flagstaff to Phoenix. And out there in Arizona, on that interstate that goes up and down between Flagstaff and Phoenix. And one day in the daytime, I guess we were going up to Flagstaff that time. I forget, that's so many times back and forth. But Gord looked out the window on the way up and he sees one of those big green signs on the side of the road that says Carefree Highway. And he said, wait a minute. He said, that's a song. And he started right there in the car. Got the contract out for the rail car and started writing on the back of it, Carefree Highway, slip away on you. You know, I'm not kidding you. That's what he did. And that's where that song came from. A lot of people don't know that there is a town called Carefree in Arizona. And it's just a little bit east of that interstate. And so it's the east-west road that goes to it is called Carefree Highway. And there's your geography lesson for the night. But speaking of geography, you know, there's a guy here on stage. Michael! Geographically, him and I only lived about what is it, a mile apart?
A couple of blocks.
Really close. For years.
We didn't know each other.
We didn't know each other at all. And I'm a little bit older than Michael. My kids were already in school. I used to joke around with people when I got to know Michael. I said, yeah, he's the guy that used to sell drugs to my kids in high school.
And keyboard equipment is expensive, you know.
We had to pay the rent somehow, right? So listen, right here, this genius on the keyboards here. We are fortunate enough to have him in the band. He comes up with all kinds of stuff. I mean, you used to I went to the conservatory to learn piano. You used to go to the conservatory and learn piano. Now, you gotta be a physicist to run all this. But, ladies and gentlemen, Michael Heffernan.
Thanks, Rick. First of all, thanks for everybody for coming out. This is great. As I've said many times, this is a mission we're on. We're not trying to make $1 gazillion. We just want to get this music to continue on. You know? You know, Gord wasn't the easiest guy to get to know. He really wasn't. I mean, it wasn't anything. I'm not taking a shot at him or anything. It's just his personality. In fact, I think in a lot of cases, really good songwriters, they're good at lyrics because they aren't real good at communicating verbally with people on a one-to-one basis. So they find expression in lyrics. But this happens more often than you think. But I got to know Gord after a while. I mean, I was in the band for 10 years and still didn't know really who this guy was. But then we started this little ritual where I had a battery-operated keyboard that I would take it, and we did this thing for 40 minutes before every show. I would play notes on this keyboard, and he would tune his guitar. And we would talk about all kinds of things, you know. Usually nothing to do with the show. We'd talk about sports, or we'd talk about girls, or we'd talk about... He would speak a lot about Orillia and his youth here. Anyway, so that was really good. And after a number of years of doing that, sort of got to know him. I got to tell you, Barry was talking about where Chris Christopherson came up from Malibu to see us play in Stockton. Well, I have a story about that. It was that same episode. Gord and I were doing our ritual. We were going to start it, and Chris asked if he could sit in. I thought, boy, this is really boring. I hope you don't think there's anything spectacular going on here. So he sat with us and we were tuning in. And then Gord took a little break. He left the room. And Chris said to me, he said, you know, Gord was the very first person to record me and Bobby McGee. I said, is that a fact? I didn't know that. So a little bit later, I said to Gord, you know, Chris says you were the first one to record me and Bobby McGee. He said, he's full of shit. So me being the kind of guy I am, I went back to Chris and said, Gord says you're full of shit. Anyways, as it turns out that Gord was right. It was Roger Miller that. I'm thinking that maybe Chris didn't want to admit that because well, Chris was a Rhodes Scholar, and so he was very concerned about grammar and stuff. And here's Roger Miller, the dang me and England swings like a pendulum too, you know. Anyways, again, thanks folks for coming out. We want to continue doing this as long as we can.